About a month ago, me and the other staff of Adat Shalom sat down with our community Shinshinit, our Israeli ambassador, and we were introducing ourselves to her and getting to know her as well. And when I introduced myself, I said, I'm Blair Nosanwisch, I'm a rabbi here, I'm on the clergy team. And she said, what's a clergy? And I immediately went to the meta question. What is a clergy? God, how do I explain all of the things we do? And I start kind of grasping for words, and I'm like, we help people, we hope we help people, and then she's like, no, we just don't have that word in Hebrew. I've never heard it before. But I do actually think the genuine question, what is a clergy? What is religion? What is spirit? What is this rabbi thing that you guys do? That's actually a really valid and important question. And I want to use it today to talk about the role of spirit and religion in all of our lives. And I think this is valuable Torah, it's valuable for us to consider because it's confusing. It's genuinely confusing. What is this Judaism thing? What's our relationship with it? And how is it a source of goodness and blessing for ourselves and for the world? I personally want to say that I approach this question from a bit of a biased angle. I chose to be a rabbi, and I chose to commit my life to religion. But around the time I was thinking about whether to become a rabbi or not, there was a Pew study that came out. It was 2013, and it said definitively, American Jews are trending in a direction. They're trending to be what they called Jews of no religion, and they were spiritual but not religious. And really this idea of trying to separate out spirituality from religion, that's what I want to speak about today. Because my conviction is that's really just marketing. Religion has a marketing problem. People don't like it. It hurts their feelings. Imagine all of the moments for a second that you've had a really negative experience with religion. Someone didn't call you when something bad happened. You came to shul and someone shushed you. That's a bad experience. People don't like it. Or it was yortzeit and someone was talking too loudly and you didn't get to hear the name called. Or chas v'chalila, we forgot the name on the one day that you came and it was really important to you. And we didn't say it. And all of these tiny things, the minutia of our work, actually really matter to all of you. And I've seen the ways that they matter more in the hurt than in the joy. And I don't mean that in the negative. I just mean we have to remember that when people are hurt by things, it's because they care. And we live in a time where we are not always clear that we care about religion or about the institution of Judaism. But I can tell you, you all care. And you don't just care today. You care every time that you've been disappointed, every time that you've been hurt. And yesterday, I looked on as the congregation stood for the shofar service. And this actually also happened in the Ledor Vador service, so I got a double dose. Tekiah Gedolah. It happened, both the shofar blower in the Ledor Vador service and in here did an amazing job. They held the note so long. And the joy, the genuine expression of joy that I saw on everyone's faces in that moment when they finally let the note go, that is also a religious experience. Not just the bad things, but the real feeling that we have when our tradition can touch us on a visceral level. It's been a really hard year. It's been, for me, sometimes torture, because as a spiritual leader, not a political leader, not an analyst of Middle East politics, not even someone who aspires to tell you what to do politically in our own country, I have been called to really feel what's going on with everyone. Spirituality is the realm of feeling. It's the place where we're touched really deeply by life, and then we need words to try to understand what's happened. And for me, the job today is to try to give words to what we've been through. And everything that I wrote came up short. It's inexplicable. There's a few reasons why. One is that you all need to hear very different things from one another. I really mean that. There's actually people sitting next to each other right now who need opposite words from the Bima. And also, on a much deeper level, every single person in this room needs validation for what they're feeling. And I can't perfectly validate everything that each of you have been through, because it's each unique. Everyone has been through something particular this year. There's this really beautiful meditation that we read in the beginning of the service around 8:05, so there were only 10 people here. I'm not mad, but you missed some good stuff. And it comes from Mishnah Sanhedrin. Of course, I can't find it right now, but that's fine. In Mishnah Sanhedrin, we have a teaching that every single human is a life, a whole universe. And that when God, in the divine treasury, stamps humans, unlike in an earthly treasury where they all come out the same, all the coins the same, when God stamps us, we each come out different. We are all universes. That means every opinion you have is the result of experience that only you have had of this world. And so you all deserve to be taken seriously. And being taken seriously seems really hard in 2024. We've all felt the sting of disagreement, but not just disagreement, toxic disagreement. The kind of disagreement that negates whatever your opinions are, that questions whatever you believe, and that makes you feel on the defense instead of open to listening and learning and growing. I've been thinking a lot about things being broken or frayed, and I want to share two very opposite teachings from our tradition. One comes from the wisdom literature that our sages attribute to King Solomon. King Solomon was the last king of a unified Israel. After his reign, he was the son of King David. After his reign, the kingdom split into the northern kingdom of Israel and the southern kingdom of Judea. And Solomon is famous for requesting not riches, but wisdom. And God is so touched that a person would have the foresight to want wisdom rather than a long life or rather than wealth, that God actually grants Solomon wisdom. And so our sages attribute Song of Songs and, it's written here, but I don't know, Proverbs and Ecclesiastes, Kohelet, all to Solomon. And in Ecclesiastes, where we read on Sukkot, Hevel, Hevel, everything is Hevel, meaning futility. Everything is futile. Solomon makes a claim, Mu'at lo yuchal litkon, a crooked thing cannot be made straight. And this is the thing I've really been thinking about. There is some really deep truth to hurts that break things. We can actually feel broken. We can feel like we've been bent so far that we don't know what it would feel like to get straight again. On a material level, metals that are bent weaken. You might be able to bend them back into place, but they're forever impacted by the experience of being bent. And on a very real level, that kind of bending, that feeling of being broken, maybe even of being frayed as a people, is a very real aspect of what we've all been through. And yet, we also say in our morning blessings, Baruch atah Hashem Eloheinu melech haolam, zokef kfufim. We say, blessed are you, God, who straightens the bent. And here's what I want you to feel, that humans are not metal. Humans are flesh and blood. And we can be bent and straighten again. We actually have to bend in order to make it through life. We have to grow. We have to be changed, shaped, melded by the things that come our way, and then stand up straight again and go forth, feeling like we've learned something new that we needed, and it's now a part of us. But it doesn't leave us forever broken. Soon, very soon, in our Musaf Amidah, we're going to hear the words of Unatana Tokef. This challenging liturgy at the heart of our service is so powerful because it invites us to face the really deep truth that there is much beyond our control. So much of what we'll experience as humans in this life is absolutely beyond our control. But Unatana Tokef actually doesn't let us off the hook. It says that tefillah, teshuvah, and tzedakah ma'avirin et ro'ah hagzera. I'm going to translate all of that slowly. Tefillah, teshuvah, and tzedakah, which I'll get back to in a second, ma'avirin, meaning they get us out of the ro'ah, the bad of the decree. The claim here is not that we don't experience God's judgment, that we don't experience bad things happening, but that we can take the sting, the ra, out of the things that happen. And somehow we do that through tefillah, teshuvah, and tzedakah. I want to take a second to understand each of these things because I think that it's worthwhile for us, and I think it's a core invitation as Jewish people to lean into the resilience that we have built into our tradition. Tefillah is the hardest to understand, and it's really the inspiration for why I wanted to talk this morning about spirituality and religion and God, because when I first taught some texts about this trifecta, I asked the people I was learning with to share which of the three of these things they resonated with the most, and nobody, except one person, picked tefillah. They were like, tzedakah, I get that. Teshuvah, yeah, that's good. But almost no one picked tefillah. And yet here we all are today. We're here to do tefillah. We're doing other things too. But we have to understand what the tefillah part means. Tzedakah is clear. Tzedakah, on some level, is about trying to make right the external reality that we exist in. It's acknowledging that the material world has heavy impact on us and our experience. That tzedakah, which can be translated as charity or justice, is about treating others with care and respect. And when we care and respect one another, we try to make the world a more fair and a more caring place. A lot of times we do that through charity, but it even goes beyond that. Tzedakah is looking at the world around us and being willing to say, something's not right about that. What could I do personally to try to make that material reality better for somebody else? Teshuvah is the inverse. It's the inward looking. Yes, other people do bad things. They miss out. They get things wrong. But what's my stake? What's my part of what's gone wrong? How can I do the internal gazing, the inner confrontation with myself, and try really earnestly to do better? Teshuvah, often thought of as a process of apology, is whatever it looks like to try to make things right when you take ownership of where you personally have missed the mark. And we're taught in our tradition that teshuvah is something that we should attempt with anybody who we've wronged, and we actually have to go so far as to try 3 separate instances to get them to accept our apology. But after the 3rd time of trying to get someone to accept an apology, if they won't accept it, they become the one at fault. I don't know if any of you I have not actually done something so wrong that, first of all, it took multiple tries to get someone to accept an apology, but the courage to keep showing up humbles you on a really deep level. And that humility is something that religion and spirituality really values in us. And it's a reminder for all of us who interact in a world that moves too fast, where hurt goes really deep, really quickly, that repair takes time and effort, and that we can't skip over the work of repair. Now, tefillah, as I said, the hardest one to understand, because teshuvah and tzedakah deal with the inner and the outer world. But it's my claim today that tefillah, spirituality, religion are here to deal with the fact that there are still going to be things that we can't repair. We need a place to put that feeling that things are actually beyond our control. Tefillah literally means prayer. It is a process of reflection. And we saw yesterday in the Haftorah, Hannah, this person who yearns for a child and gives a sincere prayer. She becomes the model of what it means to us to pray. This act of, for her, sort of murmuring under her breath becomes the model of how we say the Amidah. We stand up for our prayer, and then we're supposed to say it belachash, in a whisper, because we're imitating Hannah and what it meant to pray. But what do we all do with prayer? Especially if we don't know the words, especially if all of those feelings of shame or disconnect from our tradition come up in the moment when we're invited to prayer. What I want to offer is that we pray in Hebrew, in words that our people have been saying for centuries, because it is supposed to actually hold everything that we're experiencing. Oftentimes we get lost in the words. We look at the page, we might read the translations and say, this has nothing to do with me. And yet, on a really deep level, just the fact of coming back together and reconnecting with what has been said for so long holds tremendous depth and meaning. Taking the time to do something that's been done is meant to give us strength and resolve. I want you to hold this powerful trifecta as a model for what it looks like to understand our tradition and our faith as Jewish people. Because we live inside of a dialectic. We say the world is broken and it's our responsibility to fix it. And what I want you to hear today is that you have to make space for the brokenness. I want to validate each of the particular ways that you have been broken and that you need to hear that it does hurt, that it is disappointing, that it is frightening. And yet, you have to straighten your back. You can't be bent and broken. The Jewish people don't break, they bend. And so I hope when you hear this reminder, this call to tefillah and teshuvah and tzedakah, that you can be thinking for yourself, what is it in me that needs to be built up in the year to come so that I can stand straighter, so that I can know that as a Jewish person, I am one of many lights trying to make a better world. Shana Tova, everyone. I'm going to go to the other podium and give you some